Afternoon, everyone. It's lovely to see so many teachers. In fact, I've had a career spanning across 10 years, which has involved a lot of traveling to schools. But I think over the last 6 months, I've been really missing interacting with teachers. And it's a great feeling to have close to about 400 teachers. Our sincere gratitude to each one of you. I'd like to start with a little note. Like the teacher's job is one of the most difficult jobs. Uh, my mother has been a teacher. She's a retired teacher. So I know the teacher's life. I've seen it from close quarters. And as it is, the teacher's job is very difficult. But given the current pandemic, I think it has thrown a completely different scenario. And the kind of work that each and every teacher is putting across right now is just phenomenal to keep the learning going. Learning is a continuous process, and to be able to uh, support the learning process uninterrupted, even during such unprecedented times, I think it takes huge effort from an individual coming from a teacher. So we'd like to place our sincere gratitude to all the teachers. Kudos to the kind of work and effort everyone is putting across. So just a quick introduction about myself. My name is Jason. I am the COO of VExpo India. VExpo will be the largest education world show of the country, bringing together close to about 500 plus world-renowned educators under one roof. World-renowned educators across 25 different categories such as K-12, high school, EdTech, e-learning, and many more. This is going to be the largest confluence of the entire education community under one roof. More importantly, bringing together close to about 1 million children to witness one of the best events in the country. On that note, I'd like to share a quick video with all of you. That was a quick glimpse about how VExpo is panning out. We have some of the best names from across the globe, right from the Harvard University to British Council to Alibaba Cloud to Microsoft, from Intel. So the best amongst anything that you name, any stream that you name, is going to be present in VExpo. And VExpo promises to be one of the greatest opportunities for all of you to come and explore various uh, learning techniques which is brought together from across the globe, and a great avenue for you to explore and celebrate knowledge, right? On that note, I'd like to start today's webinar. I'd like to start by thanking British Council, our partners, for supporting us phenomenally through the entire period since our association. We have three eminent personalities today, and it is my joy and honor to introduce Ms. Janaka. She's a very seasoned and a very seasoned education leader. I personally know Janaka, and our association dates back. to about, I think it's been a decade. I've had the privilege of working with Janaka. Janaka is an alumnus of IIM Bangalore, and she has a master's degree in education from the Harvard University. Janaka is the director of British Council, and she heads the council's work in the 5 southern states of the country, enabling uh, English education to learners and uh, teachers and teacher training and so on. From this, Janaka has also been the founder of Unlearn, a unique education startup, and she's also been a co-founder of a lot of other uh, K-12 and EdTech startups. And I've had the privilege of working with her in one such startups, which has gone on to be uh, uh, which has gone on to establish the thriving curriculum industry that we see today. So it's a pleasant surprise. It's a true joy and honor to have you with us, Janaka, here. I'm excited, and thank you so much for the opportunity. Uh, so with that note, I'd leave the floor open to you, Janaka, to introduce the rest of the 2 speakers. I think that would be better done from your end. And before I leave the floor open to you, just to set some house rules, this is going to be a 90-minute session, roughly. The content will be handled by Becky and Pushpa Gopal. They'll split their sessions. We will have the Q&A towards the end of the session. All attendees, respected teachers, I'd like to request you to drop your questions in the Q&A box. We also have a poll set up. So as and when the speaker wants to use the poll, you all can utilize the poll facility here. Any burning questions, you can raise your hand, which we'll try and answer it live. But largely, I think Q&A, we will address it towards the end of the session for the benefit of everybody. I would request you all to post the questions in the Q&A box. And by default, all attendees are going to be in mute. So in case if somebody has a question, you can unmute yourself to have a discussion. Thank you, everyone. I look forward to a great session. Janaka, all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Am I audible? Yes. Yes? Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. And it is a pleasure to be here at a webinar. But, it's really sad that I can't see the people, but we can see the large numbers of teachers and educators who've registered to join us in this very exciting webinar that is brought to you by British Council in partnership with VExpo. I'm told that there are over 950 registered participants, and we are very excited that this is also going to be available, I believe, on YouTube as well as on Facebook Live. So we're very excited that we're able to share this with a wide cross-section of audiences across the country, and not only in the south of India. But I'm also told that a majority of participants in this webinar are from perhaps Tamil Nadu and the southern states of India. So very, very happy to be here. And my name is Janaka Pushpanathan. I'm the director of the British Council in South India. And many of you may know the British Council already, but I just want to say a few things about what we do and how we go about doing some of our work, and probably sort of share with you a couple of opportunities by which you may be able to associate with us, or you may be able to sort of, join us in this collaborative journey of sort of building a fabulous education ecosystem. So you may know that at the British Council, we build very deep connections and understanding and significant trust between the people in the UK and other countries, and in this case, between UK and India. And we do this through 3 broad pillars that we work on: arts and culture being a very important one, education being a very key strategic pillar, and English language. And British Council's work in education has brought millions of people together and thousands of educators together to be able to share expertise, to be able to collaborate in research and innovation, and improve teaching and learning. Like Jason was saying, I think one of the biggest challenges today in the teaching and learning domain is the fast-paced change that we're seeing unrolled right now before our eyes. Whoever imagined that we would be communicating in a totally digital manner? And most of our education systems also thrive on the face-to-face. So while we've been doing a lot of blended approaches, now, because of the unprecedented stage that we are in because of COVID, we are sort of, embracing digital like we've never done before. And British Council is sort of playing an enabling role in trying to make some of these pieces work, trying to make some of these collaborations work in a tangible way, and also create opportunities across the world for teachers and educators to be able to collaborate with each other. And one of the best ways that we've been able to do it is through a completely free to access website called Teaching for Success. Please do dip in. There are so many ideas, good, I mean, right from lessons to ways in which you can engage with your students, you can engage with each other, because this seminar, I think, is about embedding professional development for teachers. So whether it's CPD, as we say, continuous professional development, or whether it be sharing of good ideas. I had this beautiful moment in my classroom and I want to share it with everybody. So we have those opportunities for sharing, and the Teaching for Success website is one such example. And of course, for millions of young people around the world, I think employability is a huge priority, and we recognize that, and we believe that in this fast changing, 21st century environment, English language does play a huge role. And with the new national education policy of multilingualism, I think that's something that the British Council works in in great detail. We've also had some fantastic research published out of our multilingualism, research, which we are happy to share either through VExpo, and the links are all available in public domain on our website. So encourage teachers to sort of dip in and contribute, share, and learn. I just want to say a little bit about our work in South India. So we work with about 16 states across the country, and in the 5 southern states, as well as Pondicherry, Puducherry, we've been able to do significant amount of work in terms of, I think Becky and one of our other senior academic managers, Danish, ran a sort of, for middle school as well as high school teachers. They ran a webinar. So with Puducherry, we've been able to engage with Andhra Pradesh. I think there's huge demand in the school sector for how do I go online and make my class really relevant to my students and make it interactive at the same time, make thinking visible inside my classroom, right? So Jason mentioned I have a master's degree in education from Harvard. I wish I did. I was part of this brilliant program called Project Zero at Harvard University. I don't yet have an education degree, I must say that. But I think, this whole aspect of making thinking visible inside the classroom, making learning count, and also creating that atmosphere for differentiated instruction and authentic assessment. I think these are big questions that will remain relevant for so many years, because I think as the Indian education system is evolving, and we are here to sort of share best practices and to learn from India as well as to share best practices from the UK. So I really wish that you ask brilliant questions, and engage with Pushpa and Becky, who are brilliant resource persons for this session. And I hope you have like a really enriching experience. And in terms of, I was just told before this webinar, I was having a chat with our head of schools and skills and head of our English program in South India, Anu, and she was telling me that I believe the teacher educator program, the capacity building program for teachers, started with the state of Tamil Nadu. So you may know that British Council has a lot of in-depth work with state governments, and I believe our capacity building work for teachers started in the state of Tamil Nadu, so we're very happy about that. And now we've grown, across 16 states, and I think over 10 years, we've trained close to 1 million teachers and worked with thousands and thousands of learners through, teacher development. And I want to just highlight that as part of British Council's work, gender, equality, diversity, and inclusion are at the very heart of everything that we do. And we're very keen to engage with schools. And I mean, if you'd like to engage with us, I think we ran a workshop on child protection. We ran, we're constantly sort of, looking at how to embed best gender practices inside school curriculum. So we're happy to engage in conversations like that with all of the schools if you wish to engage with us. So with those very few words, I just want to say, have a great outing today and have a great time. These next 90 minutes, I think, make use of it. And Pushpa knows my big favorite author is Yuval Noah Harari, and I want to just leave you with one thing that he said. He says, questions you cannot answer are usually far better for you than answers you cannot question. So please ask good questions. Please challenge the status quo. Please challenge the stereotype and enjoy this webinar. And I hand you over to the very, very able hands of Becky and Pushpa, our dynamic duo for today from the British Council. And thank you, Jason. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janaka, for that lovely note.
Okay, thank you very much, Janaka and Jason. So Pushpa and I are very grateful to be here today, and we hope that everyone is able to get a lot from the session. We welcome everyone. It's great to see such high participation, such high numbers. As Jason mentioned, this is going to be a very interactive session, so please do use the chat box. So many of you have already commented about where you are and which schools you're in, so that's really great. Can I just mention that you can, if you change the chat to all panelists and attendees, then everyone can see what you're saying, not just to the panelists. So thank you very much. I should also mention that at the end, we'll be asking you to complete a feedback form. If you complete that feedback form, we'll give you a certificate of attendance, and there's also an extra handout with resources and a summary of today's session. So please do fill in the feedback form when the link is provided at the end. So Pushpa and I are going to be talking to you about professional development. And obviously it's one of those things which we all know is so important. And we want to give you some ideas today about how to really build that into your school and into the ethos of the teachers in your school. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, just bear with me one moment. Okay. I can no longer see the chat, so let me just bring the chat up. Okay, right. Okay. Oh. Apologies. Okay, so I think also a very important message from Jason earlier was how important the work of the schools and the teachers are at the moment. You're so important, and we really want to support you in everything that you're doing. So we're going to be looking at professional development and how that can be embedded in schools. We hope to, by the end of this session, we hope you'll be more aware of the importance of attitude in professional development, and in particular, growth mindsets. And we're going to be talking through what that is and how that can support learning and development. We're also going to be talking about what successful leadership is, what it looks like in schools, and what the dimensions, problems from working from home. And then we also hope that by the end you'll be ready to learn more about some of the aspects we're talking about and how you can embed professional development in your school. Okay. So Jason, would you be able to launch the video, so that, launch the poll so that we can, this is a quick question for everyone. It's a yes/no question. So Jason is going to launch the poll and you just need to choose the answer to the question. So I think Jason's going to do that in a minute. Well, the question is very simple.
I'm just doing it in a minute.
Okay. Okay, so the question is very simple. Would you like to spend more time and resources on professional development? If you're a school leader, would you like to be able to spend more time and resources on your teachers' professional development? If you're a teacher, would you like to have more time and resources? So I hope that you're all voting now, and when we've got a good number, Jason will share the results with us all, I think.
Becky, we have close to about 95% who are saying yes.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. So we'll hide the poll now. So I think that's perhaps not very surprising. 95% think that they would like more support with time and resources on professional development. I think often we say that there are no wrong answers. Perhaps this question did have a wrong answer. I mean, there are probably very few situations where people would answer, no, I have enough time for professional development. If that is you, then I think you're in a perfect school environment and you're very lucky. So we're going to be talking about attitude and how that can support learning and development, and in particular, growth mindsets. So this term comes from Carol Dweck, and her research is very well known and very prestigious in this area. And she talks about a mindset. So a mindset is a theory we have about ourselves, how we perceive ourselves in a certain way. Some examples might be, I'm a good driver, or I'm a bad parent, or I'm not smart, or I am smart. These are simple ideas that we might have about ourselves. And we all have these ideas. For example, for me, I often have the feeling that I'm not good at learning languages. That's something I think about myself. But then we come to the idea of fixed mindsets and growth mindsets. And what she says is that people with fixed mindsets think that these ideas about ourselves are not easy to change. We are born a certain way. We have a certain level of intelligence. We have certain skills, innate talent. And people with that kind of fixed mindset often find it harder to learn, are often slower to learn because they are afraid of failure. Often they may give up when they're confronted with tasks which will confirm their belief. Whereas people with growth mindsets often, okay, quite a few people are saying that they can't see the slides. I'm just wondering if, Jason, is that a problem for your end, or is it something that the participants might be able to change from their settings?
No, not from our end. When we are seeing it.
Yes, Becky, it's only partially visible. There is some obstruction in the screen. If you could check once from your end.
Is that if I move the obstruction?
Yes, yes, yes. No.
Okay,
Yes.
that's the chat. I want to be able to see the chat at the same time, so I might just, okay, I'm going to minimize the chat.
All right, that's the chat box, yes.
which told me what that people couldn't see the screen. Okay, so I'll minimize that, and then if, yeah, that's a shame. Okay, so I'll minimize that. If there's anything that people would like to highlight in the chat, then I'm going to have to scroll the screen again. Okay, so I was talking about...
There's one more box, Becky, that needs to be removed on the top.
On the top. Okay, that's the actual menu bar. Hide 13. Okay, so is that better now? Can you?
It's come to the middle of the screen. Okay, now it's better.
Now it's better.
All right. Okay. So now I can't see the video or the chat, but hopefully that's fine. Okay. So a fixed mindset is where you've got the belief that something can't change, but a growth mindset is where you think that with hard work or determination, you can improve your skills in certain areas. So you don't just think, I'm not a good driver, you work to improve your skills in that area. And it's Carol Dweck's research has shown that people with growth mindsets are able to learn better and more quickly than people with fixed mindsets. So Pushpa, I'm going to pass over to you. Let me just check that. Now I've hidden the menu options.
Yeah.
Have you got the ability to control the screen? Yes. So Pushpa's going to talk about having a growth mindset in terms of teaching.
Thank you very much, Becky, and thanks Jason and Jenica for that lovely context setting. As I was sitting here, I've been watching the names that are scrolling up, and I think I can see a lot of school names and teacher names that is ringing a bell. I'm sure I have met some of you earlier in the face-to-face platforms. It's a pleasure and privilege interacting with you all today. So here we are to speak a little bit on the growth mindset and setting you up ready for continuous professional development. So as Becky mentioned, growth mindset is an attitude which is very essential for teaching and learning. It's not only important to cultivate this in your students, but equally or more important that our teachers imbibe a growth mindset in spirit and action, especially in the current scenario. I'm reminded of the pre-COVID times. We used to run the core skills program for schools, and I think quite a few schools here have taken the core skills program. So for those who are not aware, this is how the program runs. Initially given an overview of the 6 essential core skills. That's the critical thinking and problem solving, creativity and imagination, school leadership and personal development, communication and collaboration, and digital literacy. They have to then do a reality check and choose one core skill that they want to embed in their school system consciously over a period of time. Interestingly, rarely would a school opt for digital literacy. All the other 5 skills were sought for except digital literacy. We at the British Council always wondered why. Why? And when we probed, school leaders would say, no, not digital literacy. We are not ready for that now. Or they would say, our teachers are not tech savvy. Or most of our teachers do not have adequate internet connectivity. Or we don't trust the internet yet. It's an irony, isn't it? Just look at where we are today. Jan 2020 onwards, everything has changed. We have to conduct classes, but we can't go to school. And the only way is online. We have all been thrown into the sea, and only those who can swim against this tide will survive. The quicker we adapt to the new normal, the better for us. As school leaders, I'm sure there are quite a few school leaders here in this webinar today. As school leaders, I'm sure you're facing a lot of challenges. You're having to troubleshoot on a daily basis. In the past few months, I have been receiving calls from many school leaders wanting to know if there is a cheat code to quickly get all their teachers on the online mode. A realization on a lost opportunity, I suppose, sadly though. So what is the first thing that we need to address here? How do we get our teachers to be inspired to take ownership for their own professional development? Continuous professional development is the only way to meet the ever-changing needs and expectations. Change is the only constant, and we need to be constantly evolving to adapt to these changes. So today we'll be talking a little bit about adopting a growth mindset. So what is the first thing that we need to address here? How do we get our teachers to be inspired to take ownership for their own professional development? So let us just move on to understand what exactly is this growth mindset. So here I have listed a few statements which also reflects as a belief. I have personally heard these statements or quotes in the various staff rooms that I have visited. Trust me, I have not made any of these up. Let me read out some statements for you. I'm sure you have heard these statements much more than me. This won't work with my students. I can only do classroom teaching, not online. I have always done it this way. Nothing can be better than this. That's not how we do things here. I'm too old for learning new technology. I don't think I can convince parents. Can you please do it for me? Yeah, I can see some chats running on. You could post your thoughts in your chat box. It's rather a paradox telling these to you since you're all here to attend a webinar, which already suggests to me that you like learning and you believe in your own professional development. And I'm presuming that you are not one of those people who would say, oh, no, I'm too old to be learning new age stuff. Yeah, I just saw a comment on the chat box. So true. If you stop learning, you are no longer a teacher. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. But I'm sure we all recognize the fact that not all teachers think that way. Some teachers out there still treat new learning as a challenge and a struggle. So the question now is it possible to change mindsets? Let's see how it works. Okay, so, sorry. I think I'm, okay. So this is Paul Arden is actually an author. And this is a book, there is a book that he has written, and it goes from with this title, it's not how good you are, it's how good you want to be. So I pulled out this title, this quote mainly because I thought that this is what embodies growth mindset completely. So here we are. So I have listed here 8 beliefs of about growth and fixed mindsets. So you will see a statement that is primarily a belief, and you have to tell me whether this belief is a feature of a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. I'm sure you have heard of the word growth mindset by now, and you also know the opposite of it is the fixed mindset. So the statement will appear on the screen. Please use the chat box. You can type G for growth mindset and F for fixed mindset. Here is the first statement. Okay, answers are scrolling very fast. I can see a lot of G's and also a few F's. Okay, so, all right, quite a lot of F's, quite a lot of G's. All right. Why only smart people? You think only smart people can learn? I'm sure everyone can learn easily. And who is it that whom you tag as smart? It's basically how you learn and from where you learn. So do you still think that only smart people can learn? Especially as teachers, I'm sure you should be more open to all learners in your classroom. So can we replace the word smart with a more relevant word? Yes, now I can see a lot of responses on the chat box saying no, anybody can learn. Fine, that's good, fantastic. So can you see how you are also moving from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset? So we could probably change the word smart to a more relevant word. Can we make it motivated? Can we say only motivated people can learn? Or self-directed people can learn, or inspired people can learn? Yes, that sounds more like a growth mindset statement. Okay, we move on. The next statement is failure and progress are opposites. Use your chat box, F or G. Okay, again, it's really mixed. I can see a lot of F, I can see a lot of G. I think it's going equally. F, G, F, G, F, G, all right. Okay, now let us look at this statement. Failure and progress are opposites. Now, progress is definitely desirable, very desirable. It means that failure becomes undesirable, most undesirable, in fact. Do you really think failure is all that undesirable all the time? Failure is not the end of the world. In fact, I personally believe that to fail is very important step to learning. You make a mistake, you internalize where you went wrong, you learn it by making the error correction, and most importantly, once you have learned from the mistake, you are never going to repeat this mistake again. This is lesson learned for life. Now, do you think failures are always undesirable, or is the opposite of progress? I would go a step further and say, I believe in celebrating mistakes. I believe in celebrating failures. Do you also believe in this? How would you be able to create a school culture that treats every mistake or a failure as a stepping stone to success? Everything that you do or say should reflect this attitude. As a leader, you should be walking the talk on how to make every failure as a stepping stone to success. Your report cards, I just quoted a small example here. This is what Carol Dweck has also told from her research studies. Your report card usually tags a student who has fallen below the grades as fail. Now, what happens when a student sees this tag, fail? Can we rethink of replacing this word with not yet, not yet? So the student's mindset here would be to say that I'm almost there. I just need to work a little harder and it'll be there soon. And do you think the results would improve? Absolutely. I can see a lot of responses on the chat box, and yes. So you now see why progress and failure are not opposites. So again, what we're trying to tell you here is it's all a mindset or a thought process. Do we have blocks on certain thoughts, or are we open to a lot of learning methods? All right, so we move on to the next statement. G or F? The more time and effort I put into something, the more I'll achieve. This is definitely a G. The idea is that with time and effort, you can improve any skill. I'm sure many of you have read the book Outliers, The Story of Success by Malcolm Gladwell. The one takeaway for me from that book is the 10,000 hour rule. And as teachers, I think we should all believe in this. If you want to, Malcolm Gladwell says, if you want to be an expert at something, not just good at it, but an expert, you have to invest 10,000 hours for it. And he says that anybody who has the intention and the time can become an expert, right? So this is definitely a growth mindset statement. All right, we move on to the next one. Some people are really talented at some things. Okay, so I can again see a mix of F and G. Now, this is a slightly confusing statement. I would say more or less this is, yes, I think somebody said that. This is an observation. This is not truly a belief. It again depends on how you interpret the statement. So is talent very important for doing things, or is it that this talent can also be honed by learning and by practice? So it could either be a growth mindset statement or a fixed mindset statement. I think very good. G and F, quite a few of you have said that. Next one. Challenges and setbacks are opportunities for learning. G, 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 G. Yes, 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 absolutely. Yes, this is a growth mindset statement. Almost 100%, I can see the results. So this ancient wisdom has been handed over to us through generations. When one door closes, another opens. You just need the eyes to see that. Absolutely. Okay, we go move on to the next statement. Negative feedback is undesirable. F or G? I can see mixed responses again. Absolutely. This is how you interpret the statement. It again depends on each person. So again, attitude is dependent on the thought process of each person. And here we can say negative feedback, or let's talk about feedback. Feedback is definitely desirable for growth. It depends on how you interpret it. Depending on the quality of feedback, we will know whether it is desirable or not. Constructive and timely feedback is the backbone for developing a growth mindset. Constructive, advancing, or developmental feedback is critical to learning, especially when you're learning from mistakes. And we can do extensive sessions on how and when to give this kind of feedback that is conducive to learning. There is so much to learn in this space. You should probably list this out as an area for your own continuous professional development, how to give and receive feedback. Okay, we move on to the next statement. Our brains can grow. Again, I think it is unanimous. It is a growth mindset. Neuroscience has stated that brain is elastic. It's not fixed. Brain can grow in the right environment. It can also shrink and shrivel in certain environments. But interestingly, many times unintentionally, we hear these passing statements. You are too good at this. You are not good at this. Haven't we heard this? Haven't we as teachers said this to our students? Black and white. Do you think we could do this? No, that's a fixed mindset. Because neuroscience can prove with conviction that our brains are elastic and can be strengthened and sharpened just like any other muscle. So we can develop a new skill at any time, even if we are really bad at it right now. So there is always hope, and we just need to invest some time and effort on this. Okay. The next statement. A born genius doesn't have to work hard to achieve success. I can see a lot of F. So can you give me the reason why you're saying it's a fixed mindset? I think it's almost 100% F. Why? He's a genius. Absolutely. What happens if this genius is lazy and does not put any effort? We have seen many such people, haven't we? What use is this talent or this genius if you cannot put it into practice? So over time, this brain might even start shrinking or shriveling it because it is not the right environment for learning. All right, so we move on to the next statement. Skills and competencies can be developed. Absolutely, it's a growth mindset, belief. Interestingly, our education system, our upbringing, our societal structure has always tagged individuals very early on. We say, you are a math person. You cannot learn languages. You are either the scientific type or you are the artistic types. Either this or that. You can't be both. Isn't this what we have always believed? So this, as we see now, is actually a myth. There is always scope for learning anything. So after having seen these 8 statements, I'm sure you are getting a grasp on how exactly mindsets or our thought process work towards our actions and our beliefs. So let's quickly recap for those who are less familiar to the growth mindset. Over to you, Becky.
Thank you, Pushpa. I think this slide is really interesting, and there were some really interesting comments that you were saying there. And I think it really gets to the heart of what we mean by attitude and having a growth mindset. when I was doing some research for this, I found a short clip by a famous basketball player in the United States. And it refers to the failure and progress are opposites. The clip it was really powerful. He was saying, you know, in my career, I've lost X number of games. In my career, I have been entrusted to take the winning shot and failed 26 times. And he notes other times he had failed. And he says, but all of that has led me to being the world-class player I am today. And I thought it was a really powerful thing that failure is a step towards progress. And it's how we think about failure, how we reflect on it and how we treat it, which actually takes us to the journey and moves us into the success realm. And also the thing about brains growing, I read a book recently and it was, you know, you think, you know, we know children's brains are very elastic, but it's actually, they've shown that, you know, adults' brains do grow and change and are elastic as well. We're always developing new connections and you can learn even into very old age. And it's a really powerful thing to be able to do that. So we were going to show a video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to skip the video for now because this is a really good video which gives more context to fixed and growth mindsets and talks about how that can impact our learning and development. What I'm going to do is I'm going to include the link in our handout so that when you complete the feedback form, you can view that in your own time with another video we recommend. I think that's probably for now what is probably best for this because we're running a bit short on time and we want to get through the other things. So what we're going to do now is move on to talk about what successful school leadership will look like. So we've talked about the importance of attitude, and now the attitude, when we're talking about attitude, we're talking about the attitude of teachers and school leaders and pupils. So how can school leaders influence success in the school, and how can they embed professional development? We're going to look at some research by Christopher Day and some of his colleagues in the UK, and they studied leaders of successful schools over a period of 3 years, and they looked at what they had in common, and they came up with 8 key dimensions of successful leadership. So they found that all of these successful school leaders were doing some very similar things, and they found 8. So these 8 were, these school leaders were defining their values and their vision and setting a direction for their school. And importantly, everyone in the school knew what that direction was and they understood why that was the case. These leaders were enriching the curriculum. So they weren't just concentrating on the academic achievements, but that was important, and they had high expectations of both teachers and pupils. But they also broadened the learning opportunities, ensured that personal and social development was a priority. They embedded creativity and self-esteem into teaching practices. They looked at the quality of teaching and learning, and that's not surprising. Obviously, they were looking at ways to improve teaching and learning in school. The difference between successful school leaders and others was perhaps the fact that they allowed teachers freedom to think about how they taught, to try new models, and again, they had the freedom to fail, as long as that failure was reflected upon, analysed, and then fed into improvements. So that was the open kind of ethos of the school. Successful school leaders also looked at the physical environment of teaching and learning. How was the school set up, laid out in a different manner? What facilities were there? And how could that all be improved for the benefit of teachers and pupils and everyone involved in the school? Successful school leaders also looked at the organisation, and in particular the leadership. How were roles and responsibilities assigned? How were they thought about? Who did what? Who was accountable for what? And was there clarity in accountabilities? In particular, they looked at leadership responsibilities, and rather than investing everything in just the head teacher, they looked at distributing some of the leadership roles across the teaching staff, which also fed into enhancing teacher quality. So while this meant providing lots of opportunities for professional development, it was also about succession planning and allowing teachers to take on leadership responsibilities to support their future career progress if that was a direction they were interested in taking. Successful school leaders also looked at internal connections. They had very good relationships with parents, teachers, and pupils. They supported teachers to work together in different ways. They encouraged collaboration. And this was all encouraged. And so not just internally, but building this meant connecting with community leaders, making the school a hub for learning, not just for pupils, but the broader community. It meant using the resources of the school, for example, teachers and their knowledge, and providing that to other schools in training, for example. And all of these different dimensions came together, and these were found to be the common things that successful school leaders had. So they were always placing at part of their decision making. So we're going to briefly, there are 8 of these, but so we're going to briefly look at the in blue to, we think these 3 are particularly when schools are facing a crisis in how they teach. And thinking about how we transfer from physical environments to online environments, and potentially in the future to a blended version of using both the digital and physical dimensions. So we're going to start with looking at the importance of defining your values and your vision. So this is talking about, as leaders in our schools, what do we think is most important? What beliefs do we hold? What is our vision for the school? What is the direction we want the school to be traveling in? And so in this research, the researchers found that successful head teachers had abilities for all pupils. They had respect and value for all pupils, all teachers, all staff. They had a real passion for learning and achievement, and a real commitment. And you can understand how these come together and really will provide an important environment and a productive environment for professional development. And the importance of all of this comes through the fact that it's really, you can't just hold this, you can't just say my values are these are my values, I want the school to be going in this direction. It needs to be communicated to the teachers as well. And when in this research, they found that the teachers understood and respected the direction that the school was traveling in. So Pushpa, can you talk us through some examples in your experience of how defining values and vision has helped schools in practice?
Sorry. So how important is it to communicate vision, values, and direction? Okay, let's do a quick reflective exercise. What is the vision of your school? Can you please use the chat box and quickly type the vision of your school? Okay, okay. All right. How many of you can state your vision? All right. I'm sure some of you are smiling out there, those who have attended the face-to-face sessions. This is an exercise I usually do in my training sessions. Strangely, almost always more than 80% of the room will fumble. They wouldn't know. This is with the teachers. The teachers wouldn't know the vision of the school where they are employed. Now, what is a vision? Who drafts the vision? And why is it important? Every school has been founded with a unique purpose. Don't you agree? There is an objective, there is an aim, the very purpose why the school was established. Do you think all schools will have the same vision or similar visions? No, not at all. Some schools believe in academic excellence, some in holistic development, some believe in sports and physical fitness as their fundamental core. Some believe in skill development, some believe in cognitive development, right? So now as school leaders, I'm sure there are quite a few school leaders in this webinar. If you could think, how much importance have you given to the vision of your school? Are all your actions aligned to the school's vision? Do you communicate this vision to all the stakeholders at all times? Do you make choices that are aligned purely to achieving the vision of your school? Or do you make choices based on what other schools are doing? Most importantly, as a school leader, have you made sure that every teacher in your school is aware of the vision and mission of the school? If you have not done it, please go back and do it. I would go a step further and say that as a leader, you have to personally be walking the talk. You should be the role model and show that every action of yours, every decision of yours is aligned to the vision of the school. Let me take a quick example here. I have picked a vision from a school that I usually visit. So this is how the vision reads. We aim to develop well-rounded and thoughtful students prepared to cope with a changing postmodern and globalized world. So usually when you look at a vision, you are looking for the keywords. Okay, the keywords here are cope with a changing world. Very apt for the current scenario, isn't it? Can you use it to your advantage as a school leader? So when you want your teachers to quickly adapt and learn the online way, so the school leader who came to me asking for the cheat code to get her teachers quickly on the online mode had this vision. I told her to go back to her vision and see the vision. So now what you could do is you could go back to the teachers and pull out the vision of the school and say, see, there it is. And here we are, COVID times. Let's do it and show we are committed to the vision. We can and we will. That's it. This is coming from the leader with conviction, with that passion. Your job is half done. And with the leader as a role model, I'm sure the entire team is inspired and motivated to take ownership for their own living, learning. And that's continuous professional development for you. Right? Over to you, Becky.
Okay, thank you. I think I've removed the grey patch again. Okay, so we're going to talk about, now we're going to move on to talk about reshaping the conditions for teaching and learning. So I mentioned earlier that this was in the research, original research, this was about the the physical conditions of the school. So in recent times, obviously the teaching environment has changed dramatically. So the teaching has shifted from four walls in a school to the home environment and the digital cyberspace that we're working on. So that's a significant change. So how can school leaders support teachers to manage that change? This is a big, and we really can't underestimate how big a change, we can't understate how big a change this is for everyone involved, for teachers, parents, pupils, and school leaders. So what can school leaders do to manage this change? I'm missed seeing the chat, so I'm going to end the slideshow for a moment. So if in the chat, can you just school leaders support teachers into the digital space? Okay. Now my screen is frozen. Okay, I'm sorry for all the technical issues. I'll probably just share my screen again because the chat is frozen as well. Okay, so some of the things that we've thought about were school leaders can support teachers by signposting resources, helping them find the ideas about how to improve teaching online. They can find the resources about child protection, online security, so that they can pass these on to teachers, because these are core things that teachers need to know. Then they can also be looking at by setting up spaces and forums for teachers to collaborate together, to share their experiences, to swap ideas, resources, and help them come together, creating those spaces. They can encourage and praise teachers and pupils in their ability in adapting to the new situation. This is a big change for everyone involved. So encourage teachers to keep developing, to keep improving, and praise them when they do that. Not just when they're succeeding, but also for trying and for making the effort to get there. And also make sure you provide the time so that they can look at the resources available using the British Council's website, for example, Teach English, which has a lot of resources about teaching online, particularly in the last few months, a lot have gone up, so that they can do this reading, can watch webinars, the recordings of webinars, attend professional development online, so that they can use this in their teaching practice. Pushpa, I'm going to see if I'm going to try and share my screen again, but now I feel like everything has frozen and I've made a bad situation worse. But would you like?
That's okay. I think we can move on without the share screen.
Okay, I wanted to share the next slide, but would you like to talk about
Reshaping conditions?
Yeah, in a practical environment. Yeah.
Yeah. So like we said earlier, I think we are facing challenging times and there is disruption, there is a lot of uncertainty, everything is dynamic, ever changing. However, in every challenge, there is an opportunity hiding. So for those of you here in this webinar who are founders of schools, I did see a lot of names who are also founders of schools. I would say that this is the litmus test for identifying effective leaders. Has your leadership community risen to the occasion? How committed are they in delivering the vision of your school? Are they exploring enough? Are they trying new strategies? Are they measuring the impact regularly? Are they reporting the results? Are they working on their weaknesses? Do they show their strengths? Do they even know their strengths? What support have they listed? Have they communicated their plans to the teachers? Are they supporting their teachers? Are they inspiring and motivating their teachers? So many questions. Work from home is not about losing time. It's actually about saving time and using this saved time for their own professional and personal development. For a school leader, the best way to support your teachers is to first put yourself on the teacher's shoes. And for a teacher, the best way to support your students is to first put yourself in the students' shoes and list out their problems, do some critical thinking, list out solutions, be creative, be innovative. This is your time to show your skills. Look for relevant resources, identify learning platforms, try it out yourself. Then you can recommend this to them with more conviction. Troubleshoot, encourage others to explore, invite suggestions, create collaborative communities, give timely feedback, receive constructive feedback and act on it. There is so much to learn in this environment, so much to do. This is the time when everybody is supportive. Let me quickly share my own experience here. As a British Council trainer for more than 12 years, especially for the International School Award and the Core Skills Program, I realized over time that teachers find it difficult to assimilate and internalize too much of information that is given in a single day's training. But the programs are designed in such a way that we only have 2 to 3 full-day face-to-face trainings, which is spread, and the program is spread over a period of time, 6 months or 1 year. Now, what usually happens is the teachers have to take in a lot of information from a one-day session. It's a cognitive overload. So what is it that can be done to support these teachers was always my question. And this was the time when WhatsApp revolutionized instant messaging. That was years back. So on my own personal front, I use this platform to build professional learning communities. What I would do is I would initiate a WhatsApp group with all the teachers who attended my first overview session of the program, ISA or the core skills. Obviously, they go back from the session with a lot of action points, but when they get back to the school and start implementing their action plans, they have a lot of concerns, they have things that they have not understood, they have doubts, they have queries. Now, the WhatsApp group that we had created becomes their go-to space when they are in trouble. So when they post their queries, this was almost like an action research for me in those days. So when they post their queries or concerns, anyone in the group can answer or provide solutions. So it was peers supporting each other. They all come from different schools and different cities, but they bonded together as a learning community. And I noticed that over time, they started feeling proud to share and happy to share their best practices also. So whatever went well in their school, they would also share that. Slowly, this became a collaborative learning group where teachers learned and grew together from and with each other. There was also a sense of happiness and emotional well-being and bonding. It worked. I'm sure some of you here have been part of my groups and will vouch for this impact. Today, there are better and more effective platforms for sharing and collaboration. Teachers in your school should meet and bond, even though they are not physically meeting. It's very crucial for their well-being of the community. Can you think of ways to achieve this? As a leader, you need to become the moderator of the group, and this calls for a very, very important leadership role. Becky, can you move on to the next slide, please?
Sure. So the third dimension we wanted to briefly bring to your attention today was encouraging collaboration. So as Pushpa was saying, this is vital, a vital tool in professional development, and providing the opportunities for people to come together and to share ideas is crucial. So we've looked at some ideas of how you can encourage collaboration, and what does it look like. So I'm going to move this over here. So some of the things that you might see in collaboration are sharing platforms, as Pushpa said, tools like WhatsApp, Zoom, anywhere that you can share ideas, whether that's in a community of practice, informally or more formal. That's really vital. Encouraging those discussions and debates. As a leader, your role is to stimulate these discussions and these debates, to facilitate them, not always to provide the answers, but to provide pointers to where you might find the answers. Think about putting in place routines for professional development. Maybe you have Mondays devoted to sharing and discussing a successful lesson activity. Maybe another day of the week you share an interesting blog or article that you've recently read. Think about how you can embed these routines, this collaborative idea in the working life of the school. How can you plan together? Can teachers plan lessons together? Can they think about the curriculum and the pacing and what the children need in terms of whether it's resources, materials, or the actual lessons and the aims that you're aiming for? So provide space for teachers to come together and plan, and provide space for teachers to do research in their own classroom, and the classroom now may mean their home environment. How can they do research into what works through in digital technology, and how can you make create effective teaching and learning in an online environment, and provide the support systems for everyone. So how can they seek support, and how can they get the answers that they need to questions which they're raising? I've got the chat up and someone's been CPD routines. So CPD is continuous professional development, and when I say routines here, for example, putting in place, like on Mondays we do this, on Wednesdays we do this, on Friday let's all share a piece of research that we found, or an interesting blog article. Just whatever it makes, make professional development a routine, a habit, so that it can become embedded in how the school works. Probably can't see the question because my chat box is in the way, but the question here is, what is necessary for effective collaboration? Some of the key things are respect and trust. You can't have, if you're encouraging an atmosphere where mistakes are tolerated and encouraged so that learning can take place, you need an atmosphere of trust and respect. And the best way for that to appear is for you as a school leader to model that, and for all teachers to understand that failure isn't an issue as long as it is learned from and it is a stepping stone to progress. Having ground rules for how feedback is given, how ideas are shared, making sure that you use the language of success and you're encouraging effort, recognizing the effort made, and you're recognizing achievement. So these are some ideas of how you can encourage collaboration and what might be required for it to happen. Pushpa, do you want to add anything more on this and how you've seen it in schools?
Yes, absolutely, Becky. So what we're talking here is about working with teachers and students in the online platform. And professional learning community becomes extremely important here. It's not like you just initiate a collaborative platform and just leave it like that. The leader plays a very crucial role in fostering a mindset of growth, especially in collaborative models. It's very easy to set up a WhatsApp group. We could also call it a professional learning community here, or a PLC. I'm sure you'll all agree that if this WhatsApp group is left unmoderated, what will you see as posts? A lot of greetings, good mornings, good evenings, unwanted forwards, unsolicited advices, fake news, etc., etc. In this case, creating a collaborative platform is more damaging than anything else. We need to be careful about this. Now, I want you to think, what is the role of the leader as a moderator of a collaborative learning group? What is the role of a leader as a moderator of a collaborative learning group or a professional learning community? Okay, I can see a response: inspiring others from Uma Maheshwari. Absolutely. Control others, is it? Okay, someone says facilitator who inspires, making leaders, example to everyone. Absolutely, example to everyone. Motivating others. Help others, yes. Senthil Vadivu says help others. Bringing everybody on the same platform, absolutely, absolutely. Bonding, fantastic. What is very essential is for the leader to be firm with the group on these three things regarding a post. Not accepting everything that comes as a post. So when you're talking about a WhatsApp group as a professional learning community, I think the leader has to be very, very clear about communicating this and moderating the group and focusing on these three questions. Is this relevant? Is this necessary? Is this a good time to post this? So you see how important it is for a leader to be a moderator in all of these collaborative models. Moderation takes a lot of skill, and there is so much that can be learned. We have done full day sessions on professional learning communities. If it is done the right way, it can be very powerful and very impactful. There are also other ways to promote collaboration and in creating professional learning communities. Collaborating on lesson plans. How about the English department? All the English teachers, this is exactly what Becky was also saying. All the English teachers coming together once a week and discuss their week's lesson plans. Many times it might happen that a class 1 teacher can suggest better activities for a class 8 lesson. Different minds work differently, and there's so much to benefit from idea sharing. The second is about working with school partnerships. How about partnering with the school and work on collaborative projects, blogging, especially team blogging across departments internally, or we can even go externally with other schools. Team blogging is more structured than personal blogging, in the sense that responses and feedback play an important feature in collaboration when you're doing team blogging. How about merging classrooms? Can classrooms be combined? The options are limitless. How about trying co-teaching? Can two teachers work together to teach a class? Especially because this is an online platform, I think it's very easy to do co-teaching. One teacher might be strong in literature and the other may be very good in grammar. So why can't the students benefit from both? How about thinking of buddy systems, mentor and mentee? The online space makes it much easier for the buddy systems to thrive because this forms a support group. The online space and the collaborative models go hand in hand. Physical distance is no longer a barrier to collaboration, mutual learning. These are exciting times. Sky is not the limit. Over to you, Becky.
Okay, thank you. I think that's great. I think that really is the point, you know, the sky isn't the limit anymore. You know, we're out there, we can be doing anything, and we need to be doing anything and everything we can to achieve pupil outcomes. So let me just briefly, we're coming to the close now, but briefly summarizing what we talked about. So we've talked about the importance of mindset, the importance of attitude. Make sure that you, the children you teach, the school leaders, you embody a growth mindset, you have the right attitude, learning is possible, and that you can see that in practice. It takes hard work, it takes dedication, but everyone can learn and can improve and develop. So embody a growth mindset. Then we looked at the dimensions of successful leadership. We saw that there were 8 core dimensions that successful school leaders had in common. We looked at 3 as being particularly relevant at this time. So we looked at defining values for the school, setting the vision for the school and the direction, communicating that clearly. So in this time, what is your vision for the school? How is digital technology getting involved in the teaching process? What do you see the school doing in the future? How can you achieve that vision? We looked at reshaping the conditions. So the conditions of teaching and learning have changed so much just in a very short time. How can you support teachers to adapt to that change? How can you support pupils to adapt to that change? What needs to be put in place for successful online learning? And are you going to be moving to a blended approach in the future? How can you achieve that? Then we looked at collaboration. How can you build collaboration into your school and amongst teachers? How can you build that ethos of sharing ideas and best practice amongst your teachers and wider into neighbouring schools as well? So these are the core aspects that we've been looking at today. So the question is attending webinars enough for learning and creating change? You've attended today, we've had some very positive comments and you think the ideas are useful. Is this enough? Attending a 1 hour, 1.5 hour session on embedding professional development, is that going to change anything? Yeah, we've got a no for Sugnaya. I think this is a very clear no. Attending is not enough. More sessions can be helpful, but it's not just attending. We need to reflect on what we learn. So I know we've all been inundated with invitations to attend webinars. There's many recordings, and it's not about the quantity of recordings or webinars we attend. It's about what we do with that information. Exactly, we have to execute it. So I encourage you to reflect on what you've learned today. Okay, think about what was new information, what has changed your opinion or mindset in different ways. What actions will you take because of this learning? How will you be accountable for those changes? Okay, so, oh dear. Okay, so don't just say, oh, I attended this webinar. Think about what concrete steps are you going to put in place. Maybe you want to explore what a growth mindset means further, so you can do some more research on that. Maybe you want to think about setting up some collaboration within your school. How are you going to do that? Who are you going to involve? Pushpa, can you take us through how they might do this with this tool here?
Yes. So I just wanted to take you through this. This is a tool that I have used in my school. So this is a very clear-cut, there are clear-cut parameters that you need to think of. So maybe this is something that you could take back and use in your own schools. So it talks about action steps. What needs to be done? You will list down what needs to be done here. And then you have responsibilities. Who will do it? List out the names of people who will do it. Timelines, by when, be very clear, fix the timelines, date and month. Resources, what are the resources that are needed? What are the resources that are available? Is there a gap? Do we need more? Potential barriers, who will resist and how? I think this is very important, especially for school leaders and also teachers. Who will resist and how do you plan to mitigate this resistance? Communication plans. I think this is very important. Very often we tend to forget communicating with our stakeholders. So list out who is involved, list out what are the methods of communication, and list out how often are you going to communicate. So this is an action plan that you can take back. I'm sure you can use it in various scenarios. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you for everyone for attending. So that's our session. We hope you've benefited from it and there were some interesting ideas and things that you can take away from it. We've got a short time for questions now. Jason, shall I hand over to you for that?
Thank you so much, Becky and Pushpa. I think it was a wonderful session. I, for one, am certainly leaving with a growth mindset. And of course, the 8 dimensions of leadership is what I'm taking away. I'm sure it was a great session. We'll quickly open the floor for questions. I'd request you all to drop in your questions in the question Q&A box, and we will moderate that. Okay, I have one question from Sujata Karthikeyan that says, suggest some ways to morally motivate our students apart from teaching the subjects, as children are highly stressed and really miss their school environment.
So motivating students. So I think one of the most important ways in motivating students is making sure that lessons that you deliver are meeting their interests. Involve them in the learning process. Ask them, what do you want to focus on? Get them to express their autonomy and get them involved in making choices about their learning. So what do they want to study? What topics are they interested in? Can you make the curriculum, the aims that you need to teach, set them in the context of whatever they're interested in, whether that's cricket or Harry Potter or whatever it might be. I think that's one way. Pushpa?
Yeah, so the most important thing here is to keep the engagement alive. It's not so much about entertainment, it is more about engagement and how much are the children learning. I think the most important bit here is to get the teachers trained, and the teachers should be aware of the psychology of the learners out there. They are not in front of you, they are in front of the screen. How do you keep them engaged? I think this is something that really needs a lot of pondering on. And if you lose them in the initial few classes, you're not going to get them back. So it's very, very important that you do it right and you do it with honesty and passion.
And this is definitely one of those areas where working with other teachers will help, share your ideas. What worked in your lesson? What didn't work in my lesson? Get feedback from each other, and that collaboration will really help. Definitely keep them engaged.
Thank you. While we take a couple of more questions, I would request you all to fill up the feedback form. We're sharing the feedback links for you all. Okay, before moving to the next question. Okay, so this is an interesting one, and it comes quite often. It says, Hajira Praveen says, suggest ways to create a strong trust among teachers. I think both of you are raring to go for this.
Okay, building trust amongst teachers is a favorite topic that I have dealt with. So I think the most important part is to create a school culture where you start it from the top down, and every single bit of your school, I would call every single cell in the school system, should be ingrained in this, be walking the talk. They should be the role models. So whatever they say and whatever they do should be in complete alignment with whatever is their expectations. What they seek should be what they are giving. There should be no gap between what they are giving and what they are receiving. So if a leader can role model this behavior in front of the teachers are obviously going to take it to themselves, because they can't be otherwise. They have to be that way. And once the teachers do that, obviously they are going to take it to the students. So it has to be a school culture that is developed, and every communication, every action that you do in school should talk about this. It has to be that trust, the faith, the belief in the system and in the people around.
And I think it's based on respect. You know, if you have respect for each other in that school environment, then you'll have a good basis for trust. And as Pushpa said, it comes down to the role modeling. It needs to be modeled by everyone, but the school leader needs to really show that. So the head teacher and all the heads of departments, they need to respect everyone and show that in every action that they take. And that means, you know, when there is a failure, when something doesn't go quite right, it is treated as a learning opportunity, not as an opportunity to make someone feel small or to diminish them in any way. It's treated as, okay, that didn't go quite right. Why didn't that go right? How could we have done it differently? That's what respect means. That's how you build the trust.
Absolutely. Celebrating mistakes.
Yeah,
thank you so much, Becky and Pushpa. We have a lot of questions specifically for the, in terms of handling online classes. So to sum up the entire list of questions that I've been receiving, I think the case in point is, how do I build on the online engagement? How do I keep the child's attention with me?
We talked about interest and engaging them before, keeping their interest, keeping them engaged, making sure that online lessons have as much activity as they would in a classroom environment, making sure that you've got every minute planned. It's not just going to, have a pause somewhere. But there are a lot of resources on the British Council's website, Teach English, and I will share that link with you. Maybe I can share the screen in a minute. And we've got a lot of resources at the moment in response to the situation. So we've got lesson plans ready to go. We've got a lot of teaching tips to support how to use video, how to use different modes in online teaching. So don't be afraid to say, I don't know how to do this. Reach out to different places. Look online for the resources that exist and share ideas with each other.
I just have a very simple thing to say here. Just put yourself in the student's shoes and see your own lesson, and you will get your answer. You don't have to search anywhere. Would you be interested in a lesson like this as a student? That's it.
Any more questions, Jason? Oh, I think you're on mute, Jason.
Oh, Jason is on mute.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I think that was the simplest way to answer that, Pushpa. That was fantastic. Okay, so talking about the challenges about teaching online, we have an important announcement to make. I'm just sharing my screen. So for all the teachers, like I said, talking about the challenges on teaching online. The CBSE School Management Association, our partners CSMA, has organized a Q&A session with the Managing Director of Zoom for you all. That's happening tomorrow, 5th of August, 4 p.m. I think this is going to be very useful given the current context. So the login details are there on the screen. I would request you all to participate in this session as well tomorrow. And I hope that's going to be of extreme use to all of you all. This is the feedback screen, which we've already shared. I look forward to having all your useful feedbacks. Please ensure to mention your name correctly, because we'll be sending out e-certificates based on the names that we're going to receive. So do take time to give us your feedback. We would love to receive all the valuable insights. I think there are a lot of questions, but by and large, we've covered the most critical ones. For all the other questions, I think you can reach out to us, and then we'll try and answer as quickly as possible. I'm sharing the feedback links once again in the chat for the benefit of everyone. So great. Thank you once again, Pushpa. Thank you once again, Becky. I think it was a very, very useful session. Personally, for us in VExpo, I think it was an eye-opener. Just the sheer kind of response and the kind of interactive session that we've had just goes to show that this is something that is required. We should be doing this more often. In fact, our vision has been to create this large confluence of the entire knowledge community, wherein we catalyze on a lot of growth opportunities, collaboration, and knowledge sharing happens. And in those lines, this was just a start of one particular webinar that we've done, and I think we are overwhelmed with the kind of response that we've received from the entire teaching fraternity. Special thanks to British Council for doing this, Pushpa and Becky again, Janaka as well. Special mention to Janaka as well. I'd like to specially thank CBSE School Management Association, CSMA, our official school partners. Thank you, Manoran sir. Thank you, Ashok Shankar sir, for all the great support that you've given us for this particular initiative, and all the individual 300 member schools. I think fantastic association with you all, and look forward to many more engaging and informative sessions, and look forward to connecting with you all more often. Do watch out for future sessions that we're going to organize like this. I would also like to drop a small note on Knowledge Setu, our knowledge app that's going to be out soon. This is going to be a unique app which is going to be a powerful tool for knowledge creators and students to connect to the knowledge community and share engaging and creative content. So do look forward to the launch of Knowledge Setu. Thank you once again, everyone, for attending. I know it must have been a long day after your teaching session, sitting through the session, but I think the kind of response and the way you've made it interactive says a lot about how the session went. Thank you all. Looking forward to connect with you as soon as possible again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Back